Hi, I'm Ed Amoroso from Tag Cyber, and I'm here with Matthew Gardiner, who is the Director of Security Marketing for Mimecast. Matthew, thanks for coming by.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
Listen, we're going to get into some technology and how you guys democratize email security, but just briefly give us kind of the elevator speech on Mimecast, and then we'll get into some of the deeper topics.
So I think of us as a provider of security and resilience services from the cloud, best known for email, but having expanded in other areas.
And you guys are iconic. You've been around a long time. Mimecast has been, always there. That's fantastic.
Yeah, 2003, founded by two South Africans.
Really exciting. Now, you've been an industry veteran. You've been doing security for a while. What brought you to Mimecast? What's kind of your journey to the company?
Well, I started in security in about 2001. Had been in enterprise systems up until that point, and was a great transition, but over the time, everything I did basically served the big companies, the JP Morgans and the Wells Fargos and the big state agencies, which is a great customer base, but as IT became more absorbed across all different sizes of companies, I realized there's sort of this gap between the haves and the have-nots, and Mimecast was very well focused on democratizing, as you said, security for the more average companies, and that really attracted me.
So tell me more about this. So democratization kind of means bringing, kind of advanced and world-class controls to a bigger group. Is that the idea?
Yeah, basically, if you think about IT, everybody's dependent on it now. These days, maybe 20 years ago, it wasn't the case. It was only the large companies. So as IT became absorbed into the sort of average organization, the security systems have lagged. Really, at least for most of my career, you'd serve, as I said, the big companies spending millions of dollars with dozens or hundreds of people focused on security. And that's just not something that your more 1,500 person company can do. But they're using IT, so they become vulnerable to different types of attacks. And that's the gap that I see.
Now, is it a true statement from a threat perspective today to say basically that it is almost impossible to find a big attack campaign that doesn't either start with or depend on email as a vector? Is that a true statement?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
The easiest way into most companies is via email. It's ubiquitous. Everybody uses it. It's very flexible. You can send links and attachments, and you can obviously send content to sort of spoof people. And so it's natural that attackers use that as a way in, and in many cases it's a spread. They spread using email. Yeah. And so that's why you see by some measures, 90% of attacks include email in some way.
How does the technology work? How does Mimecast work? And also for the folks watching, my suspicion is you probably have a wider range of people watching than we would normally get for an email discussion, email security discussion. So maybe at a high level, I help somebody who might not be all that technical. Yeah. What do you guys do?
Yeah, think about it as a filter in the cloud, basically. Yeah. So before the mail is delivered or before it goes onto the internet, when you send it, it's inspected by the Mimecast service. And so we're basically acting as a traffic cop, if you will, or a guard, inspecting your content, looking for malicious content or spam, and obviously blocking it when we find it. And that way, it never gets to you, in most cases. So the attacks are stopped before they ever land in your users' mailboxes. You have like a big heuristic kind of understanding of how the attacks work, or looking for behavioral, or what are you looking for? Like, what's the image of that technology that's sifting and reviewing? What are you looking for? Yeah, so sifting is a good word. I think of it as a funnel, really. Think on an inbound mail. There's a lot of indicators, reputation, or attached technology, or where does that link actually take you on the web? Does that place have a good reputation, or is it downloading malware? So basically every mail on the inbound goes through dozens of steps and inspections to see whether it's malicious or not, starting very simple at the top of the funnel with more sophisticated checks happening later, down to even like sandboxing of files to look at behavior. You think of it that way. It's really like a basic and many different types of inspections.
How do you figure out reputation of sender? Are you looking at a bunch of different factors to determine that?
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of service providers that provide reputation information. So a classic one is spam.
Yeah.
If you get on a spam list, you're going to get blocked as a spammer. But there are other forms of reputation out there. And we also keep track of our own reputation. I mean, the reputation of other senders that we get. So keep in mind, we have 35,000 customers, so we're seeing email, billions of mail every month, and so we build up our own sort of view of what is good and bad on behalf of our customers.
So a bunch of people watching would say, well, I use Office 365, is that good enough? What would your answer be?
It depends a little bit. My background, every application platform vendor from the days of servers to web servers to application servers, mainframes, they all have basic security controls because you really can't be a provider of an application service without basic security. But the whole security industry basically grew up to add more to it, whether it's on the desktop or on the application side. So I think the same thing holds true. There are basic security controls within Office 365 for email, but for many organizations that's not good enough. And so they go to the market and find specialists like Mimecast.
Office 365 is a pretty common kind of environment that you guys service. A lot of your customers using Office 365?
Yeah, we have about 16,000
Wow.
have transitioned. Many of our customers started on an Exchange and then moved to Office 365. Nowadays, many of our customers enter to the service with Office 365. So the idea is, part of the value proposition of a cloud-based filter is that it really doesn't matter what your back-end email system is.
Yeah.
We can route the mail wherever you want it. And so we actually find companies that are in that transition or for particular reasons want to have some Exchange, some Office 365, and some Google in some cases.
You're finding a lot fewer companies running their own Exchange servers?
Yeah, a lot fewer.
It's amazing, right?
Yeah.
That used to be almost the canonical sort of constant in IT management. You're running Exchange servers. Amazing how that's virtualized.
I mean, effectively, yeah, like you say, effectively Office 365 is Exchange in the cloud.
Yeah.
So you are still running Exchange. It's
You're
just
just not
Microsoft
managing
is,
them, right?
Yeah, Microsoft's doing it for you.
Yeah, it's amazing. What about Gmail? A lot of customers using that, or is it less in the enterprise?
Quite a bit less than Office
Is it?
365. You tend to find it in education or municipalities where cost, basically, the price of the service is a key driver. But from our point of view, it generally doesn't matter, as I said, what your email management system is. It's still filtering your inbound and outbound mail, and we deliver it wherever you want it, whether it's Google or O365 or Exchange. So, have at it, basically, from our point of view.
That's cool. What's the user experience like if I'm on the receiving side and I'm being protected by Mimecast? Do I know when something happened? Like, do I know that wow,
Something is blocked.
Yeah, something's been blocked. Does it go into quarantine, or how do you guys do it?
It's somewhat up to the administrator how much visibility they want to give their user community. You can go all the way and have an Outlook plugin, that says Mimecast, that lets the end user manage their quarantine and whitelist if you want. Many customers do that, some don't. So ultimately, what the customer sees depends on the administrator, but generally the end user figures out they're using Mimecast, partly because our URLs are rewritten. So when they click a link, occasionally they're stopped and asked, do they really want to go there? Here's some information. And they can see a little bit of Mimecast there, but they don't have to know it's Mimecast necessarily.
Now, you guys do other things, not just email. We've been talking email because that's so obvious from a threat perspective, but web, DNS, other things. Tell me a little bit about that work.
Yeah, so basically in the security side of things, the same principle holds where you have cloud-based security controls, first by Mimecast applied to email, but the natural extension is web. So if you think of clicking a link in an email, obviously that's a web control at that point. But what about all of your clicks outside of email, on a browser or some application? So most malware works using HTTP, using the web, for the same reasons that legitimate software does. And so having web protections sort of delivered from the cloud and integrated with email makes a lot of sense. So end of last year, we extended into the web using DNS as an initial control point. So that's one area. The second area we've already added is in awareness training. So phishing is essentially an attack against the user. And while you try to prevent and filter as best you can, there's no perfect system. So having your user be part of your defense is critical. But most training has been terrible, basically, historically. If anyone has taken security training, you know, sometimes it's developed internally by your security
Attention
people.
all staff, a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, or you go to some video from a lawyer saying, you know, what to click on.
Terrible.
It's terrible. You know, I hate to, you know, bash people, but they're not professionally done.
Made by
content.
engineers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right,
So
right.
what we do is we took a different perspective and we brought real actors and real scenarios and comedy and producers and directors to shoot essentially reality TV shows in 3 to 4 minutes talking about a certain security vulnerability that users can direct.
And that was an acquisition. You guys had acquired Michael Maiden's company.
Yeah,
I had admired them for years, and I think those videos are really good. Like they're almost, you know, you watch them just to watch them. They're really well done.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think people look forward to getting them really because it's painless, 2 to 3 minutes. It's entertaining and informative. So hopefully you take away something that you don't click on that and don't share your personal information. But it's not someone telling you that. It's someone showing you in a funny way what can happen if you do those things. And they're characters that people remember.
Yeah.
Human error being the slovenly, you know, the bad guy essentially, or the guy that you shouldn't be as an end user. And then there's sound judgment, who's basically the angel on your shoulder saying, don't do that. But of course you always do. Human error always encourages you to do wrong things. And so you take it away, you remember it, you're entertained, and you're not looking at that, you know, training notice saying, oh, you know, another lousy training I have to take. You actually kind of like to do it.
So really it's like a balance between the Mimecast technology protecting me, but also human being having some responsibility. Is that the right concept? Kind of a balance between the two? Because you support both.
Yeah, absolutely. There's technical controls. You want to do as good a job as you can there, but there's also the human element and process. So you got to try to nail down minimizing your human element risk, but also have business processes that are less vulnerable to sort of a single point of failure. And I think, you know, people, process, and technology, I think we've all heard that before. It's real. That is the best way to be, to mitigate your risk. And so to the extent possible, these services can be provided, you know, efficiently so that anyone can consume them.
So what's on the horizon for, let's start with the company. What do you see for Mimecast in the next 2, 3, 5 years? I mean, you guys are growing and very, very wonderful story.
Yeah, I'd say more security controls, you know,
expanding the...
Yeah, absolutely. Pretty much every security area from a technology control can be provided via the cloud.
Yeah.
Whether it's even endpoint can be a heavily cloud-based
what about
service.
social media and so on? Is that an area you guys see?
Yeah, that's another area.
Stopping fake news.
Yeah, I mean, that's where attackers get their information about people. So to the extent you can monitor and or control what goes out on social media, that's a valuable step. You know, we've expanded into areas of like looking at newly registered domains. So usually what an attacker will do is they'll register a similar domain, and then if it's similar to your domain, they're probably going to use it to spoof you or to attack you or one of your business partners. So you can sort of get more ahead of the curve by looking at the infrastructure that an attacker would use even before they use it. And so I could see Mimecast expanding into that more so.
Matthew, thanks for coming by. And we'll see you next time.